At this point, we can all agree Saryn is just broken. What's good, folks? It's KnightmareFrame here with a new Warframe video coming at you with Saryn, my 2.8 billionth Saryn video, but this time with more guns and blast synergies that completely destroy the game. Saryn is one of, if not the best Warframe in the game. There isn't a singular best frame, but she is up there. With one ability alone, she's able to turn the tides and increase the damage output of your weapons. Toxic Lash. This ability coats your weapons with the toxin element. This elemental damage scales with modded strength, weapon damage, and your weapon mods. The best part is that it doesn't combine with any of your modded or innate elements on your weapon. It deals a separate instance of damage, and it's a guaranteed status application. It's considered an ability but functions as weapon damage, as it needs weapons to deal damage and scale off. The damage scales insanely well with faction damage mods, as the damage instance will be multiplied a second time and the damage over time will be multiplied a third, effectively triple dipping in your damage. When I stated Toxic Lash scales off your weapon's elements, this means it gains additional damage from toxin mods present on your weapon and also other elemental damage mods. Her first ability has an augment called Venom Dose. This is a buff that functions as an elemental damage mod applied onto your weapons, and Toxic Lash feeds off this to deal damage, for then your weapon to feed off Toxic Lash. It's a vicious, beautiful cycle of damage. Now, if this whole segment on the ability didn't give it away, this Saryn loadout is a weapon platform Saryn build, similar to my recent one, but with a little few tweaks. We're not using her as an ability frame, but a frame used to empower your weapons. I just want to drill that into you and have quite a list for you. And I've tested a decent amount of these weapons live on stream, and the YouTube audience got a sneak peek as well when I did a multicast stream. And another synergy is that the new blast changes provide a small AoE that also has Toxic Lash spread alongside them. Oh yeah. So the weapons that I'm using are balanced when it comes to their stats on both crits and status chance, or sometimes leaning heavy on status, but we can easily gain the crit from other sources. And there are items that are used to help with improving the builds, from Arcanes that help replace mods on certain weapon builds, and Archon Shards that improve damage and also add on to the elemental damage. Starting with Arcane Avenger, this grants you 45% flat critical chance on all your weapons when you take damage. For those who don't understand flat crit chance, this means this 45% is added directly after onto all your calculated crit. That's right, a whopping 45% just slapped right onto there. And to trigger this arcane effectively, I have Combat Discipline. I'm sure a lot of you already know about this synergy. When I kill enemies, I take damage to my health, and this is able to trigger Arcane Avenger without having to rely on enemies damaging me, because that's going to be really annoying. And for the loadouts that need extra boost in fire rate, I will either use Arcane Acceleration or Arcane Velocity to grant me fire rate on either primary or secondary. This will help add on to things that really need it. Fortunately enough, I will get free fire rate on all of my guns thanks to Reinforced Bond, which is a Sentinel mod. All you need is your Sentinel to have 1,200 shields, easily done with a Worm Prime. And another thing to boost secondary weapon fire rate is the Amalgam Furax body count. It grants all your secondaries a 45% fire rate increase by just having the weapon with this mod equipped. That's pretty huge. And if the builds don't need any extra boost to their fire rates, I have another arcane that grants strength. Molt augmented. After 250 kills, you gain 60% strength. For the Helminth ability, just a simple roar. To no one's surprise, just a simple damage boost, as this is a universal damage buff, increasing ability damage and your weapon damage. But the great thing about having roar is that it frees up a mod slot, so I don't have to mod for faction damage on my weapon, as this Helminth is a faction damage mod in ability form, which is nice for a lot of people who don't want to swap mods around. Alright, looking at the Archon Shards, I decided to change up my damage synergy here, just a little bit. I have 2 Tau Violet Shards, giving my primaries 90% electric damage. These are here to help boost other weapons and boost Toxic Lash when using those weapons. And the best part is, this does not combine with your Venom Dose. 1 green Tau Shard to increase the corrosive stacks by 3, taking it up to 13 stacks, which isn't a full strip, but a nice boost to your overall damage. And the last 2 orange shards are there to regenerate my shields when I kill enemies with blast damage. And trust me, we're killing a lot of enemies really quickly. The survivability on this build is all about shield tanking, instant status cleansing, genocide, and enemy diversion. Alright, let's take a look at the Saryn build along with all the juicy weapons that are gonna synergize really well. Okay, now we are at the build section. One thing you have to note, these builds won't be as good on other frames as they are in Saryn, as she offers a lot more flexibility when it comes to adding elemental damage, and of course she's got Toxic Lash. Yeah, you can do some of these on frames like Volt, Lavos, and even Hydroid, but they won't be as effective as they are on Saryn. Since you know what I have in the Archon Shards, my Helminth ability, and the augments, let's take a look at the build. I'm just going to spitfire right through it. Now, in the Arcanes, you have seen I have Arcane Avenger, triggering Arcane Avenger with a combat discipline. This is a rank 2 combat discipline because the build does so much damage and we kill so fast, you're going to kill yourself if you're not careful. Our main source of regeneration is coming from our Sentinel and Equilibrium. Now, when it comes to strength, I have Blind Rage and Precision Intensify. Blind Rage here is my overall strength increase, just like Molt Augmented. However, Precision Intensify is only here to give me that 90% boost on my Helminth ability Roar, so I get even more damage. So then it's going to affect my Venom Dose, so I can output more damage, and also increase the damage of all my weapons, and every single DOT that I'm dealing. Duration is at 254, with Continuity and Narrow-Minded. Both of these are here to upkeep my duration, so I don't have to recast them as much. Primed Redirection and Adaptation are there for survivability. I am not maxed rank right now on my Saryn, so I don't have the maximum shield pull that I will have. But this is a great tool for survivability, and we're going to get more ways to regenerate our shields thanks to the Archon Shards and my Sentinel. Now, when it comes to the Arcanes, you already know I have Molt Augmented. This is interchangeable with a couple of builds, depending on what weapons you're using. So, if you're using something like a Sniper, which will be demonstrated later on, you're going to need an Arcane called Arcane Momentum. This increases the reload speed of every Sniper when you get critical hits. Trust me, there is that one Sniper. It's an AoE Sniper, but good God, its reload speed is horrendous. Again, as I said earlier, if you need some more fire rate, blah, 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 you can use Arcane Acceleration or Velocity. Up to you. You've already seen the background footage of me using the Cedo, so let me just show you the Cedo build real quick. All the primary weapons are going to have Primary Blight. Because we're using Saryn, Toxic Lash, this is easily triggered. Funny enough, the Cedo's alternate fire is able to proc the 4 base elements, guaranteed, so you don't necessarily need to use Saryn for this build. And Lavos will be pretty nice, or Volt will be pretty nice with this loadout as well. Along with those 4 elements that you're proccing, you're also dealing Blast and proccing Blast, so I don't have to mod for that. As you see here, I have it modded for Gas, and I have the Electric coming from my Archon Shards. The Elementalist mods are going to be a staple in all the builds, so Primary, Shotgun, and the secondary Elementalist. Why? It just increases our damage even further. Now, Lingering Torment here is a nice thing to have because we're dealing Gas and Electric, so we want that AoE effect to linger for a little bit, and this is going to be additive to Saryn's passive. Saryn's passive is Status Duration. And lastly, Shivering Contagion for some nice crowd control, and it adds on to your survivability because your alternate fire, that glaive that's going to be bouncing everywhere, will proc cold and it will freeze enemies. This in turn increases your critical damage. Notice the alternate fire doesn't have that great of critical chance, so that's why it's boosted by Arcane Avenger, going from 2% to 47. Now moving on to the second weapon, which is going to be the Booba Nico, aka Grand Overture. This weapon also has an alternate fire. Unfortunately, it doesn't deal 4 base elements along with Blast, so we have to mod Blast onto it. Another great thing about this is that the alternate fire is able to deal viral. So that viral damage is going to be really nice for some additional damage, especially if you're fighting against different factions that are weak to viral. Doesn't have high crit chance. Avengers carrying. Primary Blight, as usual, for our crit damage and multi-shot. Modded for Blast. Elementalist mod. Prime ammo stock because, unlike the Cedo, the alternate fire does consume ammo. Let me demonstrate it. So it's a simple blow your load and be on your way. You're going to notice that most of the tests that I'm going to be showing here are against Xmas units because everything else will just explode in 2 hits. So yeah, blow your load. Dead. Let's do that again. Dead. Gotta love it. Now, for the third weapon, to no one's surprise, it's gonna be the Phantasma. It's another shotgun. The cool thing about Phantasma is that it's a beam weapon. It has innate radiation, and it does have a really funny alternate fire, but we're not gonna be utilizing the alternate fire. We're just gonna go boom, boom, boom with the beam, shred everything. Taking a look at that build, right here, Blight, the same thing. You see the pattern? Again, Blast, it has Electric from Saryn, radiation. You know what? Let me just show you.
Just like that. No need to fear. You're just going to clear. That was horrible, but you get what I'm saying. And since it's really high in status chance, we're going to ramp up every single status we have, including the blast damage. I didn't even notice how many status procs I put on that guy. They just died. Not enough beam length, so we got to get a bit closer. That's the Phantasma. Moving on to our fourth weapon, which is the Palgrus, aka the Dragon's Breath. My Dragon's Breath, recently, I decided to go for a Magnetic Progenitor. This Magnetic Progenitor does help against enemies who have Overguard. Now, it has a very funny modding right here because of its unique augment. Pattern is there, you see what we're going with. Have a look at this, Nightwatch Napalm. This augment will have your shots leave behind a field of fire. This field of fire will tick over time, dealing damage over time and your modded elements. It does scale with the heat elemental damage mods you have on your weapon, which is pretty nice. You may have noticed I don't have it modded for blast because the direct hits do trigger blast, but blast is not going to be the main thing here. So we got gas, electric from Saryn, your usual elementalist, firestorm, heavy caliber to spread the projectiles, and let me demonstrate it. That's it. Just like that. Yeah. That's the Palgrus, every new player's favorite weapon, the Prometheus Lens, aka Ignis Wraith. Ignis Wraith does have innate heat, same system, blight, and your usual modding. Now here, when I say usual modding, it's a bit different. Since the weapon is innate heat, I put one elemental mod to form blast, yet I'm also getting blast and electric. Now here's when you decide when you want to interchange some things. You have two ways of going about this. One, replacing Vile Acceleration and running Arcane Acceleration. That works just fine. And with that replaced, you can run Galvanized Aptitude just to increase your status chance and your damage. On top of that, you get a nice, juicy 69 status chance. Nice. I mean, that. Or if you heavily want to depend on Arcane Avenger, you can drop critical delay. You get your 45%. And with this setup, you can have Elementalist alongside Galvanized Aptitude, and you can also have Vile Acceleration. So you can get even more damage with your roar thanks to Molt Augmented. That's the Ignis Wraith. This is with Arcane Avenger as our main crit. Now, this weapon has a lot of issues. When I say a lot of issues, is that it just does too much damage.
Why? That physically makes no sense.
Conditional Finality, aka the Strun. It does so much damage that when you try to build up Incarnate, you're just not going to get your Incarnate charge right away, because you kill them way too quickly. DE, you need to fix this. So, taking a look at my evolutions, it's this one right here, that one right there, and finally, increase our status chance because we have so much crit with this weapon. Taking a look at the builds, similar loadout, you got your damage, you got blast, you got blight, but yeah, we just have some free slots here, so boom, put in critical deceleration. We don't need much fire rate with this weapon, but reload speed is quite important because it helps us go in and out of our Incarnate fairly quickly. Now, you're gonna see something here. We're gonna do so much damage to the Xmas, and look at our Incarnate charge. This is the problem. I had to put Xmas there because if I put anything else, watch this. We put the regular guys. You see way more death than the Xmas units. Oh, good God. Okay, we got our Incarnate charged. Let's actually test it out against, a tougher group of enemies. How about 2 shots? Yeah, that was 2 shots. Dead. So when you finally get this thing going, it dominates. And our other Incarnate weapon, because we just had to put this here. We had to put this here. The Torrent. Everybody knows how powerful this weapon can be and how much damage it can deal. It does have innate toxin. So with those electric shards, it's going to combine to make corrosive. Now the funny thing is here, I'm not even going to use Venom Dose. So the cool thing is here, since I don't need to run Venom Dose, you can replace that augment for Venom Dose for something else to help you sustain a bit more. Looking at that Saryn build really quickly, you can even run Regenerative Molt. This helps you heal with your Molt, and you can swap Equilibrium out for anything else, more strength, or even fast deflection for even more shield recharge and decreasing that recharge delay. Up to you. But let me just show you. We got this evolution, that evolution, and this evolution. To be honest, you can even switch it to the status chance one just to give us even more status chance, but don't have to worry about that. Crit is going to be really nice here because we're getting our additional status chance from the Galvanized Aptitude mod. Similar loadout, blight, and modded for blast. Very simple. No Venom Dose, and let's charge our Incarnate. Don't die too quickly, please. All good, all good. Yep. Yep. That's the Torrid. Do a lot of damage. Okay, another weapon that people probably have forgotten about, and I've done a couple of videos with this weapon, as I do really enjoy it. The Quanta Vandal. It is a beam weapon. It has the longest beam, by the way. Looking at the build, we got our blast, primary blind, the usual. It does have an interesting perk. Allows you to deploy these weird cubes, which you can then detonate. Let's just show you how it works. So, yeah. So, with this primary fire, that's the primary fire. Now you add on the alternate fire to that and shoot them. You got kabloomies! Now, our final primary weapon that I will be showing you is the Spirothrix. This is the sniper I was telling you about that you need reload speed on. It does have a 2.7 reload speed. You're going to notice that because you're going to be blowing your load fairly quickly, and let's be honest, it's not comfortable. So you'd replace Molt Augmented with Arcane Momentum. Very simple. This does leave you with a free secondary slot. So you can always run your Grimoire and use it for the strength increase with Bomb Invocation. That's 60% strength. This is pretty much Molt Augmented. So every time you want to recast your Roar, Toxic Life, Venom Dose, whatever, throw out the alternate fire, let it tick up to 60%, and then boom, free strength increase. The build, very simple. You got your blast right here, fire rate, magazine warp to increase that magazine capacity because we need to blow your load fairly quickly. And it does have that augment where it increases your explosions and all the kabloomies. And it does have innate fire roll, so that's pretty nice. It does bleed enemies. There you go. So that's without Arcane Momentum. You see how horrible that is. So yeah, Arcane Momentum, definitely needed. And now that we've taken a look at the primaries, and I got something for you, the Compressa, the only good thing that came from Urele. I mean, her skin as well, that's another good thing, but that came afterwards. But yeah, let's take a look at the build. It does have innate fire roll. It does do some kabloomies, little delayed explosion with all the bubbles, modded for blast. We have conjunction voltage here because of primed convulsion, blast, electric, lethal torrent. We have target cracker because Arcane Avenger. All right, so let's just shoot. Looks about right. You're still alive? All right, no, they're dead. They're dead. The other secondary is my Callus mini tool, aka the Ocucore. Now, it does have a funny build. I do have Blast and Electric with Pistol Elementalist and Cascadian Power. I did cover this arcane, but for those who don't know, it scales really well with Toxic Lash and Roar. Basically, when you proc a status effect, you're going to apply an additional instance of that proc, dealing more damage. So you can ramp up in your damage fairly quickly, allowing you to blow up enemies very fast with blasts and spread that electricity everywhere. I charged up the Sentient Wrath augment because you definitely need that augment. Otherwise, don't use it. Another good thing about the Ocucore is that it's very ammo efficient because of that augment of it. So we get more crit chance and status chance with every tendril. Do you see how fast we ramped up in those procs? Now, you may have noticed on the build I don't have any fire rate mods because that's all coming from the Furax Wraith with Amalgam Furax body count and my Sentinel, which gives you reinforced bond. So, taking a look at the build, I got Guardian, Negate for that status cleansing, Medi-Ray to just help heal us, and over here we have Shield Charger for some additional shield regen, reinforced bond for that fire rate if your Sentinel has over 1,200 shields, but I have 2,100 shields, thanks to calculated redirection because the worm is buff. And we got Tenacious Bond. This increases our critical damage by 1.2 times. Very nice to have. And you get this critical damage bonus if you're using a weapon that has crit chance over 50%, easily done with a Volcox or a Volcock. So up to you whether you want to run Cox or Cock. You got critical delay here just to bring it up to 60%. And with the Vigilante mods here, this helps increase our critical tier with our primary weapons. There are a bunch of weapons that can synergize really well with Saryn, but these are the ones that I wanted to showcase to you. Anyway, folks, that has been it for me. I do hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please feel free to leave a like, share, and subscribe for more Warframe content, streams, and so much more. Do it for the description. Thanks for watching, and as always, a peace. Bye-bye now.